Hi, I'm Karen Johnson, and I am a teacher and a writer, and I was a former federal administrative law judge, and most of all, and most importantly, I am a bereaved mother. My 27-year-old son crossed the Rainbow Bridge 5 years ago, and it put me on an entirely new path and a new journey that I want to share with you. And if you were like me, you might have been feeling, or may still feel, very stuck with your grief. Grief is about death, after all, and death seems very final. But one thing that I have learned is that you don't have to be stuck in your grief. People tell us it's time to move on, it's time to get over it, you have to accept it. But I want to challenge that a little bit with you. We don't get over it. We didn't catch a case of the flu. This is nothing we can take a pill for or medicate away, although sometimes people, very well-meaningly, want us to take pills to try to numb us and get us through this, but I think there's a better way to get through it. The truth is that getting over it and accepting it, moving on, all those words we're told are cliches, and they really are foisted on us by others who are trying to make themselves feel more comfortable, because we make them in our sadness and despair very uncomfortable. So I made people profoundly uncomfortable in my grief because I probably took it to an extreme that many people question my very sanity. I retired. I sold my home and all my household goods, and I went on a 2.5-year journey around the world trying to figure out this grief thing. What do I do with it? How do I work with it? I was one of the fortunate ones because my son came to me right after his passing. I saw him standing right in front of me, just as though he were right there, smiling at me. And although it was earth-shaking, and I really wondered if maybe he was still alive somewhere or somehow, and maybe he was stuck in the morgue, and maybe he was trying to get out, all those crazy emotions. But at the end of it, I came to realize, oh my gosh, my son is alive and he's living on the other side. And since then, I've gotten many messages from Ben, and I'm sure most of you, many of you, have gotten some kind of message or awareness from your loved one that's on the other side. So we don't have to get over it, accept it, move on. We can do something different. We can channel this energy of our grieving to create a new life. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to go on a journey. It's a journey that's sort of based on the concept of as above, so below. So our loved ones are on a journey, and so are we. The journey they're taking is from transformation through resurrection and rebirth. And we know that because there's many cultures all over the world that have these concepts. In Christianity, Buddhism, Egyptian culture. So we know that there is more on the other side, and we know because our loved ones are around us, touching us and whispering and giving little messages to us or little indications of their presence. So we too are on that same journey. We too are in the journey from transforming from our life before death into this life after death. And then we're resurrecting. We're coming to terms with it, and we're loosening some of the stuck energy around it so that we can get in this state of resurrection, beginning to look around us and find a new life. And then finally, we're on our stage of rebirth. We're rebirthing. We are creating out of our sadness and our despair and our grief a new life. We're going to use the transformational energy of grief to move us forward so that we create something that wasn't there before, something that comes out of the wisdom that we've gotten from the death of our loved ones. And this is not something that we need to prove by our sadness and despair to anybody, not even to ourselves, how much we loved our deceased person, our loved one, the one we love, they want us to be happy. They too are watching what we're doing, and they want so much for us to move forward just as they move forward. So as we take this journey, we are going to use the practices in the Four Winds medicine wheel. There's 16 of them, 4 practices for each direction. And we're going to use all of them to help us in this process of transformation, resurrection, and rebirth. So in the south direction, we're going to begin with the 4 practices there: non-judgment, non-suffering, non-attachment, and the beauty way. And at the end of each section, each practice, I'm going to give you little exercises that you can do. And these exercises will help you to move the energy that is stuck, that feeling of stuckness. And then next we're going to move into the north direction of the medicine wheel. And in the north direction, we begin the process of resurrection, resurrecting, looking around, leaving the stuckness, and deciding where the energy of death is going to take us. And we're going to do this by looking at the 4 practices of beginner's mind, living consequently, invisibility, and integrity. And once again, at the very end of each section, we're going to have some exercises for you to do so that you can begin to work with these energies and begin the transformational process of resurrection. And then next we're going to move on to the west direction of the medicine wheel. And in the west direction, we're still in a transformational process. We're still moving a lot of stuck energy. So we're going to do that by looking at non-engagement, non-doing, certainty, and fearlessness. And once again, at the end of each section, we're going to have little exercises that are going to help you to move energy so that you can lighten your load and move towards resurrection and rebirth without carrying a lot of baggage with you. And then finally, we're going to move on to the east direction of the medicine wheel, and that's where we're going to be in the energy of rebirth. We're going to be able to really move forward in our lives using all that we have learned and going free and not carrying the baggage that we've been carrying in that stuck energy. So the practices of the east direction of the medicine wheel are no mind, mastery of time, owning your own projections, and indigenous alchemy. And at the end of each one, you'll have some practices that are going to help you in this new business of life building and using the wisdom and the energy of death, of mourning, of grieving, to build and create something new and meaningful. And at the end of it all, I hope that you, like me, will be in a completely different spot and not a stuck spot of despair. You'll still have the pain. The pain doesn't go away. I wish I could take all the pain away from everybody, but I think the pain is part of the wisdom that we need. But you won't be in despair and you won't feel stuck. You'll have a different outlook and you'll be able to use the wisdom and the energy of death. Death has challenged us. You know, that it's given us a big challenge. Are we going to stay small and stuck? Or are we going to grow from this and move forward? Just as we wish for our loved ones on the other side. We don't want them to be stuck. We don't want them to be miserable. We want them to be moving along. We want them to transform and resurrect into that new place of lightness and rebirth, whatever that means. Rebirth into a different body, rebirth into the light. I don't know, but I feel Ben all the time visiting me, and he's telling me about the exciting things he does on the other side, people he's met, and the ascended masters he's worked with. So I so want that for him, and he so wants for me to keep going and to survive and thrive. And so that's what it's all about, and this is what I want to share with you. Surviving and thriving and growing and using this transformational wisdom that death has given us to move forward. So I'm looking forward to seeing you next time, and we will be in the south direction of the medicine wheel. See you then. Much love.